In this video, I'm going to cover a little bit about hand walking and road work. And it stems from a post I had in my group. Uh, what does hand walking do for a dog as far as conditioning and keep goes? Now, uh, as far as nature goes, canines are probably the best built for mobility. Uh, the way their structure is, of course, the four legs, uh, the length of their body, uh, how they are put together is almost perfect for a mobile animal. And in the wild, canines in the wild, as far as all the predators go, canines compared to lions, tigers, cheetahs, they travel more distance than any other predator, and they're built better for running than almost any other animal, especially any predator. And just as a small comparison, some breeds of canines like greyhounds and salinkis and uh, dogs like that, they can run faster than horses can run. So in terms of conditioning, what does hand walking do? Without insulting anyone, and just as a matter of pure conditioning, very little. And that's not to say that hand walking isn't important, that it doesn't have benefits. It does. It's good for cardio. It's good for keeping an animal fit. It's good for uh, muscle and joint muscle. Not so much muscle development, but muscle, keep the muscles fit, joints, keeping the mechanism working. You know, it's good for health. But in terms of the actual conditioning, uh, I'll put it to you this way: a dog can travel a lot faster than a man. He can run a lot faster than a person can. He can cover a lot more distance without getting tired than a person can. For someone to get out, and even if you're running with your dog, not that it's not good, it is, but there's no way you can equal up to the amount of work a dog can do if you're running with him, if you're on foot or hand walking with him, right? It can build some stamina if you can do it long enough and build up some endurance, and it helps uh, a lot more if the dog is pulling for most of that time, right? It gets the circulation going, gets the blood pumping a little bit, right? But for you to compare uh, working a dog just hand walking compared to other methods like cat mill or treadmill or even sprint work, it's not the same. And the reason it is not the same is because you have to get the dog's metabolism up, you have to get the heart rate up, you have to figure out a way to get them tired, and it's awfully hard to get them tired or to tax their body in that respect if you're only hand walking. So hand walking in conjunction with other methods is great. The way I used hand walking basically was to empty the dog out. And what that does is what I did was I took them out before the workout. You walk them, you let them empty. They loosen up, they stretch out, they warm up. For me, that was the perfect method of doing it rather than just take them out and start running them, because they need that time to empty out before the workout so that there's no negative effects to them exerting their body during the workout. And I also used it after the workout to cool the dog off. So those distances are relatively short. And one of the points to this is, how are you managing your time when you're conditioning your dogs? If you let's say you're hand walking your dog, even if you're running them, let's say you do both, running alongside them. To cover a mile would take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. 2 miles, 20 to 30 minutes. If you compare that, and that's just a light workout for a dog. It's not much, right? It's good, but it's not much. But if you compare that to flirt pole work, or sprinting or even jogging or running on a treadmill, or running after bait on a cat mill, those methods are a lot harder workout, are a better workout than you getting out there and hand walking your dog. And like I said, there are some people that do that. They run them for miles. But let's say at the peak, if you're able to do this, you can hand walk them for 20, 25 miles. That's going to take, I don't know, a few hours. Is that the best use of your time? And the point to that is, that's why all this other stuff was invented. That's why cat mills were invented, and tables and treadmills, carpet mills, and slap mills, and even later on the e-mill, because it's a better use of the time that you have to condition your dog, and it's a better workout. It's a more intense workout than it is hand walking them. Now, some of the benefits of hand walking, which I really like too, was it gets the dog out there in fresh air. It gets the dog out there and piques their curiosity, especially if you're out in the woods or you're out in the country or something like that. They see different things, they smell different things, they're curious. They enjoy being out loose, so to speak, even if you have them on a lead, a long lead or short lead or whatever it is, where they're not confined to a chain spot or the kennel run, and it gives them more freedom of movement, right? And there is that bonding effect that people talk about, but that bonding effect, that all comes when you're raising your dog too. The difference in the bonding effect from just when you're raising your dog or spending time with them or even doing regular exercise, that compared to in keep, is that dog is focused on you, you're focused on your dog. Everything he needs, he gets from you. That's the difference in the bonding. You're the one that feeds him, you're the one that rubs him down, you're the one that spends time with him, you're the one that he sees the most during the day, and it becomes a team effort, and it's co-conspirators, and it's that bond in that respect where you see the benefits of it, which is different from just raising your dog. Although raising your dog, if you spend enough time with them, that builds that bond anyways. And he'll work better for you if you're the one person who did that for him, with them. That's where the bonding effect comes in keep. Codependency. You need the dog, he needs you. And it becomes tight. That relationship becomes tight. So there's a lot of benefits to hand walking, but in terms of conditioning, the top level conditioning like we like to see and that we all talk about, it's not enough to get them in that peak condition. Just for the simple fact that the dog is built for running, the dog is built for being on its feet a lot more than you are, and a lot better put together for running than you are. So you can't match the dog. There's no way you're going to match a dog in terms of hand walking used for conditioning. It has its benefits, but in my opinion, it's better. You're better off using your time conditioning using other methods than you are hand walking. Even like I said, you're doing 8, 10 miles a day, up to 20 miles a day, like some people say they do. I don't know if they do or not. Or spending hours and hours trying to get that heart rate up, trying to get that metabolism working, trying to burn those calories. It just is just not going to happen. So that's where we get into road work. That's why I developed that road work, because in my early days I was lacking in conditioning. I knew I was lacking in conditioning, and it hit me like an epiphany. Hey, I'm not getting their heart rate up. I'm not getting them tired enough to where uh, uh, they're going to burn calories and then recoup during that rest time and build muscle. I'm not doing enough to break down the muscle, cut the fat, and then build the muscle back up. It's almost impossible to do that. And the difference would be if you have dogs that are always active, say like Boleo dogs, right? They don't need a lot of work. They're high intense behavior just on the chain. So if you were to go out and hand walk them or even run alongside them, it's good exercise for them, but it's not really conditioning even for those dogs, because they're naturally conditioned anyways. Most dogs aren't. So they need something extra to put that hard work on them. So one day I was just sitting there and I had a 10-speed bike, and it just popped in my head, because as kids, if you're raised with dogs like we were and a lot of people were back in the day, maybe not so much now, but if you're raised with dogs, you took them everywhere. You took them on your bike down to the lake, or you took them to the park, or you took them to your friend's house, and they were running around all day. And we had working cattle dogs. They're around the cattle all day, and when it's time to work, they go work. And in between the work, there's little rest periods they have, but it could be hours a day that they're working cattle depending on what you're doing. So the dogs are active. And when you're a kid, after school, if you're taking your dog with you, they go along with you. They do everything you do, except you're riding a bike. They're running alongside you. So I don't remember. It was after a couple of keeps where I won those matches. But after those 2 keeps, I told myself, I need something else. This is not enough. The dogs were lacking. So like I said, it was like epiphany. I got a 10-speed bike. I got miles and miles of and acres of agriculture around me. Put it to use. So that's where that 8 to 10 mile thing came from in my keep. That's how I could keep up with my dog on a bike alongside him. That's how I can increase the work. I just pedal faster. I can back off the work, stop pedaling, let the dog pull me. He's still at a good pace, and the dog will run. He'll have bursts of energy where he'll run, he'll trot, he'll have a certain cadence for a little bit, and then pick it up, slow it down, pick it up, slow it down. And you can manipulate the dog that way by encouraging them, or if you just allow them to do that kind of work. When they hit a new spot with my dogs, they would pick up the pace, because it's some part in the road work that they hadn't been to before. So they would increase the work that way, and I would just encourage them to do it, and they move along that way. So rather than going hand walking or even jogging 2 to 3 miles an hour, now it's up to 7, 8 miles an hour, and faster in certain bursts. Up to maybe 10 miles an hour or 15, depending how fast you can pedal your bike. And some people use ATVs. They use 4-wheelers. That you can increase the speed faster and still be able to go at the trot the dog's doing, or the different paces with the dog. You can do that. Some people developed an apparatus where they connected it to the mirror or the door vehicle, their car or their pickup, and had it connected. So and then sticking out to the side, and then have a lead connected that to the dog. So it kind of keeps them away, keeps them in line, keeps them kind of tight, so they don't run in front of your vehicle and get run over or run under it. You have to set it up where if they do try and shoot in front of the car to chase something, they can't go far enough. That lead stops them. That apparatus stops them. Because on a bike, they'll do that. They'll shoot off in a direction, cut across in front of you, go to the side, left, right, go back. So I just got to the point where if that happened, I just let go of the bike, hopped off. I got dumped one time, and after that, it never happened again, because I just trained myself to just leave the bike, just drop the bike, let it fall where it is, come to a halt with the dog, bring them back to the bike, pick it up, continue on. They enjoyed it because they have that freedom and they have that fresh air and they see different things and different smells, you know. And if you were to do that, let's say you go out in the woods and you have a dog, a pit bull. Uh, a lot of times they go out there and they're there, but they don't really run around and work themselves. They're not really digging for stuff and looking for stuff. They're just kind of out there with you, and they'll look at you like, yeah, what do you want to do? They enjoy it, but they won't self-work theirself up to a pace where their heart rate is up and their metabolism is working and all that. That's why you need that movement, that travel, right? Some people would allow the dog to run behind their vehicle. And depending on the surface road, I didn't really like that because they're getting dust in their face and it's kicking up stuff. But if it's a relatively clean surface, like if you could do that on grass or something, other than the exhaust from the vehicle, it's not going to hurt the dog. They're not going to get all this stuff in their face. I prefer to bike because I got to exercise that way too. And some of the matches, they can be grueling affairs where you're moving around a lot. You have to be in pretty good shape. Most of the time, not. A lot of times you just let them go. There's not even no handling, not even no scratching. But if you do dogs long enough, you're going to run into everything. And sometimes you might have to handle them 10 or 15 times. You might go an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. So you got to kind of be in shape too. Kind of like a trainer who runs alongside his boxer, during his conditioning for a boxing match. They run alongside because it's companionship. It's not out there the fighter by himself, and the trainer's in his mind is showing, well, I do what you do. I'm not just sending you out there following you around on a bike or a car. I'm out there with you. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So I'm working out the same time you are. It's that kind of mentality. And that's the kind of the mentality I had with the dog. I'm not just out there watching you work. I'm going to get out there and do the work with you too. That's part of where the bonding comes in, or the relationship, in that respect. So that road work does just that, and you can manipulate that. You can change it up. You can change the speed. You can build some strength. You can do some sprinting. You can do long endurance work, that's where that mileage comes in, because they'll go through a hot spot. They'll recoup from it. They'll continue on, and they'll set the pace. Then they'll increase the pace. They'll back off on the pace. And you do this over miles and miles of road work. It's real hard to do that with hand walking. So I'm not knocking hand walking. I'm just trying to put it in your mind that you have to figure out a way to build that to increase the heart rate of the dog, to increase the metabolism of the dog, to burn the calories off in your conditioning program. And you it's real hard to do that with just hand walking. And that's why a lot of guys, it went from that, even though you read the old keeps, don't take a lot of them as face value when they say, We ran 5 miles, 10 miles, 8 miles, all that, you know. They won't put in there that they also used a treadmill. Some of them didn't do that. They won't put that some of them used swimming, or some of them they may have run the dog 20 miles, but it's not them running the dog 20 miles. They hired kids, they had workers if they owned a business that did that work. So they might have one kid run them 2 or 3 miles, bring them back, another kid run them a fresh, like a fresh rider, switching them off like that. Sadler was known to do that. That's how he did it, you know. There's an old story in Pete Sparks magazine, and I think it's Ham Morris. I can't remember. And if you read it, it sounds kind of outlandish. He would run the dog alongside a horse. He ran him up to 50 miles a day at the peak of his conditioning. He didn't run him 50 miles a day every day, but he got him up to 50 miles a day, and he got him up to eating 5 pounds of beef. Now, whether it's a true story or not, at least the conditioning matches the feed, where if they're doing that much with the dog, they're going to need a lot of food, you know. And again, he couldn't do that. That person couldn't do that with his own feet, but you can do it with a horse, you know. So, this was the type of dog that he could let it run loose, and the dog ran alongside the horse, and he got him up to that. And then it goes into how grueling the match was and how much damage was took and this and that, So I don't know if it's a true story, but at least it makes sense in the fact that he had to get to this level of conditioning, and the food had to match the conditioning, or the conditioning had to match the food, put it that way, as Mr. Gray says, So that's why these other apparatus were included. The cat mill, the flirt pole, the treadmill, the e-mill. The e-mill is a good way to build endurance. I don't know, I'm not familiar with them that much, and I'll do a video on the different apparatus too. The ones I am familiar with and the ones I'm not familiar with personally, but I've seen them in use with different dogmen. And that e-mill, depending on how fast you can go, I'm not saying that they could sprint on it. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But it's good for endurance, steady, long work, or cooling a dog down after a workout, And it's just a matter of getting the best use of your time when conditioning a dog. Because it's one thing to say, I run my dog 10 miles a day, right? Impressive if someone's able to do that. But who benefits from it? Not the dog. It's the person. It could be the person's ego saying, I get out there and I work my dog, and I do this with my dog, and I do that with my dog. But what's the benefit to the dog itself? Not much. Even 10 miles. And if you do an experiment like that, just do the hand walking with no other apparatus. Have your dog at a certain weight. Do nothing but hand walking for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a month. Do that and feed them the same and see how much weight they lost. See how good their conditioning is. I guarantee you it's not comparable to using other methods to get their heart rate up, get their metabolism going, breaking their muscles down, allowing them to build up. It's not the same. And that's why, even though some people may said, all I do is hand walking, most of them ain't telling you the whole story. Because they couldn't. It can't be done. And like I said, the reason for that is because a canine is perfectly built for being mobile. They're perfectly built for walking all day long, trotting all day long, or running for miles and miles. And, as I mentioned in the beginning, look up how many miles do predators travel, or look up how many miles a day do coyotes travel, how many miles a day do wolves travel, compared to how many miles a day do lions travel, or cheetahs, or jaguars, or bears. It's not the same. The canines Everywhere I've checked, and just growing up country, seeing coyotes everywhere, running here and there over, 2,700 acres. How many miles could they cover? And they go here and they go there. Just as a matter of during the day, it averages about 10 miles a day. Wolves is longer than that. Whereas lions and cheetahs and tigers like that, it may be 2 or 3 miles a day only. Lions spent most of the day resting, right? And I'm not saying that predatory canines don't do the same thing, but their travel distance is a lot. 2, 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes more than other predators. So that's why what I mean when I say canines are perfectly built for mobility. That's just the nature of it. So our dog is a canine. It would be natural for them to be able to exercise miles a day, but you're better off using some type of apparatus if you're going to do that natural work to get that done rather than just your own 2 feet. Just the fact you have 2 feet and they have four is a big difference. And the way their body is built, long like that, with 4 feet on the ground, deep chest, they're built for it. We ain't. Not in that respect. So that's a little bit about hand walking and road work. Hand walking is important, but it's not looked at as a conditioning method by the top competitors. Road work is, and other methods are too. But that doesn't mean leave the hand walking out. Some people did. They did very little. It has its place in my keep, and it has its place in every keep if you want to incorporate it. But as far as that top conditioning, it's not really meant for that. And competitors realized that a long time ago and included other methods. So let me know what you think.